You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
Hi, you're listening to my mom, Georgia Edson, on iCannabisRadio.com.
Good evening. That's Georgia in the camera right there, in case you were wondering.
Sorry.
That's not me. So it's Monday night here in the Mile High City. Or it's Monday night where you are too, probably, if you're listening live. So shit.
But you're right. I mean, it could be any night because
YouTube.
Because of YouTube. But we're not talking to the YouTubers right now. We're talking to the people that are listening live. And unless they're in Europe or Asia, it's Monday night.
This is true.
How's your Monday?
Full. It's been a long weekend. It's been a long week. Today's been a full day. It's been a weird day. But it's my favorite time of the day is right now. Well, no, let me rephrase that. My favorite time of the day of the week is right now.
Of the week.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily care about 7 o'clock on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday as much as I care about it on Monday.
I agree with that.
So
I agree
just
with
wanted
that.
to put that out there.
So can we show Jeremy a little bit better on camera? Because I want to show Alfalfa here. This is really funny.
on.
No, don't wreck it. Don't wreck it.
Not too late.
No, it's still there.
Motherfucker.
That is funny. I have trouble with the headphones.
I just have trouble with my hair.
Did you get a haircut this week?
I did.
You did. Looks very handsome.
I did. The guy that
Alfalfa's back.
Yay. The guy that our friend Matthew that used to come over to mine and Jenny's condo, cut our hair, once a month, once every other month, whatever. I went down and saw him yesterday in Denver at this shop called like Floyd's something. I don't know. It's jam packed.
There's a Floyd's. There's lots of Floyd's.
I'm sure. So good luck finding it. Don't
tell anybody because then he'll be busy.
But I went down there, got a haircut. He's awesome. I don't even have to tell him what to do. He already knows, and uses a straight edge to cut the top. It's kind of like a little hair head massage when it's happening. It feels so good. It's wonderful. I pity the people with long hair because you can't get it. I mean, you might. Yeah, they could do the ends. Probably. Fuck, I don't know.
I like it when Jeremy thinks as he talks, and all of a sudden he realizes that maybe we're not listening.
Well, you have to listen because I'm talking through the microphone. Maybe you tuned it out, but maybe you didn't.
Maybe you didn't.
And you wasted that whole time listening to nothing. Dun, dun, dun.
I do like getting haircuts. I think that's really fun. I don't do it. It feels like when I do, it's like going to the dentist or whatever. When you're in it, getting your teeth cleaned, you're like, oh, this is fantastic. It's such a great feeling. But taking the time to do it, all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's been 6 months. It's time for me to get my teeth cleaned. I feel like that about haircuts.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Once every couple of months, 2 or 3 months. And I hate it. I bitch after the first month. I'm like, fuck, I need to get a haircut. Oh, well, tomorrow. Not going to worry about it today. I'll worry about it tomorrow.
That's right.
And then after 2 months, it's like, all right, this is ridiculous. I can't. All right, fuck
shaggy.
it. Who cares? If the opportunity comes, it works out great.
Yeah.
But that's the benefit of having your own personal hair cutter, even if you have to drive for it.
That's right.
But I suppose if I really wanted, he'd drive out to me. So.
Aww.
But he works like 7 days a week, so it's easier to drive out there.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure he appreciates that.
Yeah.
Well, we have a fun show ahead of us. We've got. I want to talk about a couple things. But it's the third Monday of the month, and you know what that means? First of all, it's the third Monday of freaking November already. I missed October. Like, I remember Halloween, but I missed the entire rest of the month. I don't know how that happened. I feel like it's about mid-September.
September is a thorough blur.
Yeah, I bet it is for you.
I remember bits and pieces. That's usually my most favorite month. This year, not
as
so
much.
Yeah.
Well, next year will be different because that's just what happens. But so Greg is going to come in for our cannabis history lesson today, which is always a fun time, and we're going to talk a little bit. We talk a lot about CBD. We have been talking a lot about CBDs, and we're going to talk a little bit more today about sort of what's happening nationally with this whole CBD push and why and how. And in a couple of weeks, we are going to do a show with families whose kids are taking CBD medicine and how that is for them. It's interesting. It's sort of been this really cool club that these parents are forming, this alliance to be able to motivate legislators and to be able to motivate their physicians and other physicians and traditional physicians and physicians who are open to less traditional medicines. And this is a powerful group of parents, and I'm extremely impressed. And they come from all over the place. They are in legal states and non-legal states, and they aren't afraid to talk and open their minds and their homes and their mouths to the press and to legislators because this medicine is changing the lives of their kids and changing their lives and at the risk of sounding melodramatic, and it is very dramatic. I mean, this has been life-saving for these kids. And I know you guys have all seen a lot of these news stories and the CNN Sanjay Gupta special and those kinds of things. But, these families, these brave, pioneering families who of course are making these decisions that any parent would make. I'm going to go ahead and try this medicine because nothing else has worked. They're making history. And they're changing the minds of legislators all over the place. And they're changing the minds of legislators in terms of how they look at cannabis, in terms of how they look at the difference between cannabinoids. It's fascinating. But one of the things that I feel like is missing is this understanding of what CBD is and what it isn't. And I saw, Jared, that you just pulled up a page on CBDs on the intranet.
Well, this is a friend of mine's page out in Illinois, St. Louis. This event is in Illinois. It's in December. It's a CBD education event that I wanted to bring up and talk about a little later too. Because of the mass migration of people from everywhere.
Oh,
to
sorry.
Colorado.
We got to show these pictures later on. These kids, these CBD patients are, and that's the other thing, is the terminology is changing. These folks are using the term CBD. They're not using the term medical marijuana necessarily, but they're talking, they want to differentiate that they're talking about using CBD for their kids. And so any of the judgment about your kids getting high or those kinds of things is thrown out the window. So sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's you're right. The thing with all that, oh shit, no, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, that's okay.
No, I'm sorry. You're talking about this educational forum that they're having in Illinois.
Yeah, it's on December 9th, but I forgot what I was going to say because I want to talk about
the
it
migration.
A little later. People migrating here. You were saying something about how people are starting to use this as a last resort. I'm hoping that sometime soon people will start thinking of chemotherapy, of putting their children through a microwave. Not entirely, but you're still blasting people with radiation.
Right.
I would never want to go through chemotherapy. I hope to God I never have to. I hope that people start to see cannabis as a first option, because what is it going to hurt to take some CBD pills? Nothing. I just went to the hospital, in and out, whatever. But for the big one, 2.5 months ago, almost 3 months ago, and it cost a ton. And I was there for 8 hours. And it's more than a down payment on a house.
Right.
So it's like, can it really hurt to spend $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 at most, or whatever, on a bunch of CBD oil if you can find it, and try it before you choose to go to the hospital and engage in these terrible things? But
that's not going to change. It's not going to change until research changes.
Well, you saw that they're starting, or they're on the very cusp of human trials, and it's like, fuck, we've been doing this for years. So get with the program. Right. But that's usually how it works, is this way.
Well, and not that I disagree in any way with what you're saying, because I don't. I think that the reality is the safety factor. So the reason why clinical trials exist is to ensure that before this becomes a widespread treatment methodology, that side effects are understood and all of those kinds of things. And so I mean, it would be great to be on the cusp of these human trials, and it would actually be great to be on the other side when that's done and doctors are making these recommendations and they understand what they're recommending and all those kinds of things. Because at this point, families are doing a really great job using some really well-developed strains of cannabis. But the idea of dosing, I mean, those kinds of things, I mean, it's not yet scientific.
No, it's totally not. I know that I don't really want to get into that. I know that we were trying to help a friend whose kid was only having a couple of seizures a week, and said just give them a little tiny size, a little pin drop, BB size, whatever, and whatever. And she's like, well, it's not really helping. It's not changing it. It's like, well, he's already down pretty low. I mean, I don't know. We're still trying, but she panicked. She tried it herself. She's like, oh my God, this is what I'm giving him? It's like, are you trying his other pills? I mean, I don't know. It's
hard, isn't it? It's so hard.
It is tough. And that's where we do. And I agree that we do need to have, people that are devoting their time to study every different aspect. Because while I say that we've been doing it a long time, we're not taking too much data down.
Right.
It's just we're trying to cure ourselves. So it could be any number of things added to, maybe we changed our diet and added CBDs or this or that or the other thing. So
well, and doctors are really reticent to recommend medical marijuana of any sort in place of cancer treatments. So when you're talking about chemotherapy, I mean, most physicians will say, if they're going to recommend medical marijuana or CBDs or anything in that genre, it's going to be in conjunction with traditional treatments to aid in the negative side effects. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe there are physicians out there who are willing to say no to chemotherapy, no to traditional medicines, and only yes to medical marijuana. I've yet to hear of a doctor who's willing to do that. However, when it comes to seizure activity, specifically, intense epilepsy, you probably have all heard of Dravet syndrome, which is a very rare, very intense form of epilepsy, of a very intense seizure disorder, where medical marijuana has shown to reduce by 90 to 100% the number of seizures that these little kids are having, and that's life-saving. Life-saving.
I would like to see side-by-side comparisons somehow. I don't know how you would do it though, of the synthetic stuff that they're creating. I forget some of the names. I've read several different articles saying that even the best stuff that they're making, I know there's Sativex or something. I mean, there's several different simulated forms of it, but I've read a bunch of studies that are saying that the natural plant still is better. You still can't synthesize what was made right the first time.
Well, and I don't know enough about this, and we can certainly do some research and have another show, but my understanding is this is the synthetic form of Delta-9. So it's
What's Sativex?
And Marinol.
But there's another one that just came out, the synthetic CBD one. I'll look it up here.
Okay, so I mean, definitely a possibility. But yeah, why do something artificial when you can have the natural? But then again, I guess people drink Tang instead of orange juice.
Which is so gross.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more talk about CBD. I want to talk about some other things, and of course, Greg will be here.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding, Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
The Law Office of Edson, Mayton and Matz provides criminal defense, family law, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running a medical marijuana center, optional premises cultivation operation, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout the state of Colorado. We're focused on providing high-quality service and customer satisfaction. We will do everything we can to meet your expectations. WarrenEdson.com. Edson, Mayton and Matz in Denver, 303-831-8188, and in Aspen, 970-948-7183. WarrenEdson.com. Green Faith Ministry is for spiritual guidance, MMJ information, and networking combined with compassionate care on the way to enlightenment with all Green Faith sacraments. Green Faith provides charity assistance, including medical and food throughout the year. Contact them at greenfaithministry.com.
Hi, welcome back. We were talking about CBD, cannabidiol, one of the more than 80 cannabinoids in the cannabis plants, and the idea that gosh, these children with these seizure disorders are getting better. They're getting their lives back. These families are getting their lives back from this plant, and it's so miraculous and so wonderful and so amazing, and these parents are so brave and so unbelievably excited to share this information with other families. It is amazing. I have to say that there was an article in the Salt Lake Tribune and entitled "Families Migrating to Colorado for a Medical Marijuana Miracle," and it does feel pretty miraculous. This was an article published on the 11th of November, and it talks about a family who says in the days or weeks before Annie and her husband knew whether the medicine that controls Piper, their daughter's debilitating seizures, waiting is familiar ground for the young Tennessee family that has tried virtually every pharmaceutical fix available. They traveled 1,300 miles to get here and waited more than 2 months for what may be their best and final hope, cannabis. This family is part of a migration of families uprooting their lives and moving to Colorado, where the medical use of marijuana is permitted. More than medical tourists, they are medical refugees, forced to flee states where cannabis is off limits. This is just the first wave, said Margaret Getty, a Colorado Springs physician with a degree from Stanford who prescribes marijuana and has compiled case studies of children using cannabis-infused oils. These families are going to keep coming as awareness spreads because the results are real. Getty has been monitoring 11 children with seizure disorders who are taking the same cannabis extract that Piper is receiving, and she will present her findings at the annual meeting of the American Epilepsy Association in December. That's going to be a phenomenal report because while it's case studies and not actual research, the anecdotal information is going to be astounding. I mean, we already know what that looks like. We've already heard from these families. We've already seen this news that these seizure activity is dropping tremendously. She says 9 of the children have had a 90 to 100% reduction in their seizures. The parents of one child aren't sure the oil has helped, but it hasn't hurt, and the other has had a 50% reduction. So the majority have had significant. One has seen a 50%, which I think is still extremely significant. And then there's one that's on the fence about whether or not it's helped at all. Medical marijuana is currently legal in 20 states. Obviously, Colorado has become the go-to place for an extract from the plants that's high in cannabidiol, CBD, but low in THC, the psychoactive chemical compound of marijuana that creates the high-end users. It's pretty obvious why parents don't want their kids exposed to that. That's confusing and I mean, these are little children, and a medicine with a psychoactive property, which I contend that at least for me and probably for others, taking opiates has a psychoactive effect. Lots of painkillers, those kinds of things, can make you a little nutty in the head. Marijuana entrepreneurs and cultivators Joel, Jesse, Jonathan, Jordan, Jared, and Josh Stanley call it Charlotte's Web, which is the strain that they have produced, named for the Colorado Springs girl who tried it first. You guys all saw that on the Sanjay Gupta report. The number of children younger than 14 with marijuana red cards, and the red card in Colorado is the registry card. It's actually physically red that shows that you're a registered medical marijuana patient. It's tripled in the last 5 months, from 7 in March to 21 in August. I mean, that's a phenomenal number of kids under the age of 14. in the increase. A waiting list the Stanleys keep for their CBD extract numbers about 200 and is growing. The list includes about 30 kids in Utah whose parents, instead of relocating, are lobbying for permission to import the herbal remedy, which they've dubbed alphasia. Since it's known so low in THC, they argue it meets the U.S. agricultural standards for hemp, which is used in products such as clothing and lotions. So that's kind of the route that they're taking, is they're saying that this is different than marijuana. This is actually closer to hemp. Next week, which is this week, they hope to receive the blessings of Utah's Controlled Substance Advisory Committee. Can you imagine working on the Controlled Substance Advisory Committee? I want to do that, which makes recommendations on scheduling or classifying of drugs. My heart is heavy, Piper's parents say. They go on to have lots and lots of quotes from parents that are heart-wrenching, to say the least, that ultimately just want their kids to feel better and want them to be able to have access to their medicine and don't want to necessarily have to relocate to be able to do this. So again, parents are taking very powerful steps and feeling very powerful because they're powerless over their kid's illness, and they feel like this is the step to take. And I, as a parent, and I just think I, as a human being, when you look to see a parent who has tried everything and has all of those traditional things have failed their child, and there's one thing that apparently has worked for lots of other kids, why shouldn't you get the opportunity? Why shouldn't you get the opportunity to try that, right?
I concur.
So tell us about the CBD education program that is coming up in December.
Let's see here. Where to start?
What's the website?
It is. Excuse me. cbdeducation.org. So if you're near a computer, open up a new window real quick.
You should be near a computer since you're
listening.
Yeah,
well,
online.
But you might be listening doing something else. So if you are, just take a brief moment, walk over to your computer, open up a new tab, and type in cbdeducation.org and check it out. Click some of the links and learn some stuff.
The video that's on there, the Roma Caring video, that talks about Zakai and Charlotte, is about, 11 or 12 minutes long?
11:24.
11:24. I was pretty close.
Yep.
It was made a while. It was within the last year, but it is a phenomenal video. And most of you who listen to our show are already believers. Show this video to those who aren't, because it is a great way for people to be able to see cannabis in a whole new light.
Agreed. One thing, kind of off the subject, back to this, we didn't really talk about. A week or two ago, there was the world's biggest storm on record that hit the Philippines and all that. I never did hear anything about it hitting Vietnam or near that area. Whatever. The tornado outbreak that just hit, yesterday?
Yeah.
Wiped out, all kinds of crazy weather. Crazy weather. But Illinois got hit hard, and I guess the building right next to where this event is being held was leveled, and it passed this building where the event is going to be. Seems like maybe this is an event that the universe wants to have happen? Yes, thank you. I was trying to figure out how to say that.
Like that?
Thank you. That worked out real well. So if you're in the Illinois area, woohoo! I don't know where it's at. I'll find that information here. But if you're in the Illinois area, which covers the whole state, we'll see if we can narrow that down where it's at. Washington, Illinois.
Wherever that might be.
Wherever that might be. We're in Denver, Colorado, so, good luck.
To us, there's not a lot. I mean, for me at least, I hardly go out of my 1 square mile radius from my home, except for to come here.
Right. It's weird. People, Colorado, we're on the outskirts of the desert. We're like desert mountains with trees.
Dry mountains, yeah.
Yeah. So, but the tornado, so they're doing a huge collections for the Red Cross and all that stuff too. So if you go there, please check all this stuff out. There's a lot of people that need help, including you, maybe. So that's CBDs for you. You can help with tornado relief, disaster relief. Check it out.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, I mean, part of doing a series like this education series is to let people know that there are a lot of components to this medicine. I know that my father, who also lives in Illinois, when he was writing his legislators to let them know that he was a proponent of marijuana, medical marijuana legalization before it passed, he felt like it was a big deal to let them know that there are other ways to use marijuana other than smoking it. Since so often, one of the easiest things to do is to say, well, gosh, smoking of anything is bad for you. Thus, I'm not a proponent of medical marijuana because I'm not a proponent of smoking. And so it's nice to be able to say that there are edibles and topicals and tinctures and oils and all those kinds of things that don't engage your lungs and engage in an entirely different part of your body. In fact, you more than likely use the plant more thoroughly eating it so that you don't burn off any of the healthy cannabinoids, and so that your body actually digests all of the medicine as opposed to burning any off.
Right.
So there you go. Eat up.
We used to promote that when we were trying to sell our edibles because it's the best way to get complete therapy.
It is.
You smoke some, you get good head area, and you eat it, and you get full body area, and the head and body.
Yeah.
Get your head and body aligned, you're doing all right.
We just got a comment on the chat room that says CBD for anxiety is tremendous, and I can imagine, especially since oftentimes people. I mean, one of the negative aspects of marijuana is that people sometimes feel paranoid or anxiety-ridden from smoking, typically sativas, and so I can imagine that CBD being good for pain and those kinds of things would aid in relaxation and aid in anxiety. I mean, that makes sense to me. I'm glad that you had a good experience with it. Smooch love.
Well, that's automatic names it gives. But I will second that.
I know, but I like to call people by the automatic. If they're not going to change their names, then I'm going to call this person Smooch Love.
Well, and it just sounds so loving and happy anyway. So it's just joyful.
A smooch to me always sounds like it's a wet kiss.
Yeah, like a Bugs Bunny cartoon
right.
kind of kiss.
Not like that,
That's
actually.
A little more pornographic.
Not at all.
Producer, sir. But I will second that the CBDs are great for anxiety. I know that after my accident, I used CBD pretty much every day for the first 4 weeks. I completely believe that it fully amplified my healing, and it kept my stress level on a much lower level than it is nowadays.
Good.
That I'm not intaking as many CBDs as I wish I was. So, yeah.
Well, and also there have been some articles out about, once again, Colorado doesn't recognize PTSD as a diagnosis in which you can receive your medical marijuana card. You can't make a recommendation based on PTSD. Stupid, I know. I just report the rules. I don't make them. But obviously, there is a connection between the use of CBDs and PTSD alleviation.
Yeah.
Hence anxiety.
Just cannabis all around. I mean, certain strains obviously can help cause anxiety, but certain strains can help relieve it. And we've talked about post-traumatic stress before. It's amazing how much weed helps it. Just period.
As someone who probably is experiencing some post-traumatic stress.
On the daily. So it's, if nothing else, I'm living proof that not for everybody, but life without cannabis just sucks. I mean, for those that knew me before I was 19, it's pretty easy. because all those people, like, yeah, you were a rough person back then, like not rough and tough, but just angry and mean all the time, and had whatever issues. And thank God for weed. And now, with whatever problems I've incurred over the last several years, I can't even imagine living life without.
But now there's some science behind that. This isn't just about Jeremy saying, wow, I feel better and I act better and I'm a nice person to be around because marijuana is in my life. There's some science that says, here's some things that are going on inside your body that you're actually adjusting and helping and addressing by using cannabis.
Correct.
And we're in such a better place, and I can't wait to see where we're going to be in 10 years. But what we got to do now is see where we're going to be in a couple minutes, because it is time for us to take a quick break before we have Greg come in with our monthly Cannabis History Lesson. So we'll see you guys in just a few minutes.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On Grass. Runongrass.com.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Hi, welcome back. This is amazing. That was like a hiccup.
We need a longer break. I mean, I couldn't even get dabs out of a package, to...
Or maybe you need to speed it up.
Yeah. Well, I'm fucking trying here. So I'm just going to dab while we learn.
Hi, Greg. Welcome to the show today.
Well, thank you, Georgia.
For those of you that don't know, this is our dear friend Greg Daurer, who is a writer and a historian and an activist, and Greg has written for
and he's hoping to leave all that and become a published, famous author and never have to work again for the rest of his life.
Yeah, if anyone could help out with that would be great.
Yeah, send offers, agents,
publishers,
get on the ball. Well, here we are. Are we cutting out?
No, you're good.
Oh, good. Thought maybe we had some problems for a minute.
No, Chris just put his arm in front of the camera.
Oh,
so it just looked funny.
That happens. But I just wanted to add to what you were speaking with at the end there about CBDs.
Yes.
We do want to just give a little bit of a shout out to the website Project CBD. .com. There's a lot of, projectcbd.org, O-R-G. There's a lot of good information on there, and you could learn more about CBD and studies that have been done and experiences with it and doctors speaking in favor of it, all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. So what are we going to talk about today? What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking... Imagine this.
Imagine. Okay, hang on. Put on my Imagine hat.
We've got a drug czar in Washington, D.C. If you can imagine this, there's prohibition going on. We've got a drug czar in Washington, D.C., and he's saying that marijuana is one of the worst things in the world. He's saying it's worse than heroin and cocaine.
Still?
It drives people mad like mad cow disease. And you will take an axe and you will bite people like cows don't bite, but still, well, maybe they do. I'm not a farm boy, but you take an axe and kill the cow and kill your family. And this guy says, there's been a lot of young people and older people smoking marijuana in the city in which I'm mayor. I want to investigate this for myself. I want to see if this is true. So he assembles a whole host of doctors and psychologists to study it for several years, and then he issues a report. And guess what the report says in this imaginary scenario?
In my imaginary scenario, the report says the opposite.
It says the opposite, yes. Exactly. Well, this is not the present day we're talking about. We're talking about the 30s into the early 40s. And the mayor was the mayor of New York City. His name was Fiorello LaGuardia.
Like the airport.
Just like the airport. I have a feeling that
they named
that's
him
tied.
after the airport.
There's a connection.
That's it.
What did you say?
I said they named him after the airport.
Exactly.
That's how it
That's
was done
cool.
back
I wish
in the old
I
days.
wish I would have named my kid
I
DIA.
thought it was vice versa, but
No,
I could be wrong.
that's what most people think. But,
Yeah, exactly.
but really,
But that's silly.
These things it's totally silly. They've been around for a long time.
So Fiorella, he's the product of immigrants. He takes back the mayor's office from a very entrenched, politically powerful group. He reigns for, he's elected and reelected. He had previously been a congressman. He was a little short guy. He was about 5 foot tall. He was of Italian parents. His father was a lapsed Catholic. I've found out through Wikipedia. His mother was Jewish, but he was raised in the Episcopalian religion.
Of course, that makes sense.
Absolutely. But it, gives him a perspective on the city that somebody who's not from all these different types of groups wouldn't have had. So he commissions a report. This is the height of reefer madness. And he's saying, I'm reading, we've read about these reports of these this marijuana being sold in pool halls in Denver in the New York Times, and how it drives the people of Spanish American classes out there nuts. And we're having a lot of people smoking it here in our biggest city in the country, New York City. So what are we going to do? We're going to study it. So they study it in 1944. They released the LaGuardia Report. And I'd like to cite some of the things that it says in here. First, there's his introduction, and there's one or two things of note in here. He says, "My own interest in marijuana goes back many years to the time when I was a member of the House of Representatives, and in that capacity heard of the use by soldiers stationed in Panama. I was impressed at that time with the report of an Army Board of Inquiry, which emphasized the relative harmlessness of the drug and the fact that it played a very little role, if any, in problems of delinquency and crime in the Canal Zone." So no crime among soldiers or delinquency among soldiers or the people of the Canal Zone from smoking marijuana. So that was one of the things that he says in the report. In its foreword, they talk about the organization of it. They studied on prisoners, which had mixed results. What was interesting is they not only let him smoke some of it, I believe, but they also gave him like a tincture. It's pretty interesting. Let me see if I can find one of the other.
What year did the LaGuardia Report come out?
It came out in 1944.
Okay.
So let me get to some of the findings, and then we can come back.
Sounds good.
Let's see, the conclusion, summary, and discussion.
You don't hear much about the 40s. It's like one of those forgotten decades.
Yeah, the 30s were exciting, the 50s were exciting, the 40s,
What do you hear about that?
Yeah, no.
World War II.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Let's see.
Very true.
4 years of blah.
Of history people want to forget.
There's
But
conclusions. We've come to the conclusions here. Marijuana is used extensively in the borough of Manhattan, but the problem is not as acute as it is reported to be in other sections of the United States. Let's see. I love this one, number 6, because it uses a word that I would never have used in this way, and it's very interesting. The consensus among marijuana smokers is that the use of the drug creates a definite feeling of adequacy. Hey, I'm smoking. I definitely feel all right.
I feel fine. I feel
that says something.
marginal.
There's other drugs out there you take them. I feel pretty raunchy. I feel pretty bad. I feel pretty obnoxious. I feel pretty violent. I feel adequate under the use of marijuana.
Capable, maybe.
Shit, I feel pretty adequate after that dab. I'll tell you what.
I tell you what.
The use of marijuana does not lead to morphine or heroin or cocaine addiction, and no effort is made to create a market for these narcotics by stimulating the practice of marijuana smoking.
So I'm sorry, in 1944, in the LaGuardia report, they debunked at least a portion of the gateway drug theory.
Absolutely. And they said marijuana is not the determining factor in the commission of major crimes, such as crimes of violence. It's usually not a major factor.
Even the police know that. They don't ever go out to domestic violence where, oh, we found a bunch of joints and the guy apparently smoked some weed and beat up his wife. You know, if that was the case, you know, some of the cops would be like, well, what did she do? You know, because at that point, it's a clear-headed crime still, even if you're high. I mean, that's the difference with alcohol. If you're like, well, there's 3 bottles of fucking Jameson all around the floor and his wife is half dead. No one's going to jump in and say, well, what did he do it for?
Because he was drunk.
Because he was hammed. So, yeah, cannabis is obviously clearly safer than alcohol. And no matter how hard they try to demonize it, they just lose.
But it's
so
phenomenal.
Again, that's the same message from back then as well. Marijuana is safer.
That's right. Well, and it's so amazing that there's report after report after report, both anecdotal and more scientifically studied, that shows the same information. Yet for some reason, reefer madness of the 30s is what gets drilled into people's heads. That somehow is what became part of the DARE program. That's somehow what gets passed on from families. And you know, parents now in Colorado can't tell their kids or their adult children don't smoke marijuana because it's illegal. Now they have to come up with some other reason. And what's that going to, I mean, the only reason is because it's illegal because you're not 21.
Right. Well, and
you're still a developing young person, and yeah.
But I mean,
it might be best if you chose to wait.
Exactly,
sure.
which is the good correct message in my estimation to send. But with all of this information, like I don't understand how we're so stuck in time.
I would rather see kids sitting around smoking joints than on a Friday night than standing around next to a keg, drinking, doing whatever we did as kids.
Yeah.
Plus worse shit nowadays. So, because when we were kids, they could still discipline us, our parents.
We can't discipline our kids now?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
Well,
discipline your kids, it's child abuse.
Oh, like
it said in this report, juvenile delinquency is not associated with the practice of smoking marijuana. And the last conclusion was the publicity concerning the catastrophic effects of marijuana smoking in New York City is unfounded. That's it.
Wow.
Bango.
Thanks, Mr. LaGuardia.
That's right. Yeah. And we should listen to old Fiorella himself. He was talking about alcohol prohibition. He didn't really like alcohol prohibition either. Let me just say this before Chris starts it up. Here are his first few words, because it's just a little hard to hear on the YouTube. He says, prohibition cannot be enforced for the simple reason.
Prohibition cannot be enforced for the simple reason that the majority of American people do not want it enforced and are resisting its enforcement. That being so, the orderly thing to do under our form of government is to abolish a law which cannot be enforced, a law which the people of the country do not want enforced.
God, does history repeat itself or what?
What a wise thing to say right there, sir. You know, kudos to you. Although, for how many years afterwards has it been just terrible?
Right?
But still, you know, we're less than a century later, we're starting to tear down those walls finally.
But we're still saying the same thing. I mean, you're absolutely right. We've certainly made progress, but how is it that we still have to say those same words? How is it that we still have to fight that same fight when Mayor LaGuardia was saying it in the 1940s?
Money.
Well, it is.
Money suppresses everything. It's amazing what people have lobbied for, what money has bought. I mean, it's almost 2014, and we're still fighting. I mean, you could go an hour and a half from here and get in all shitloads of trouble for having a joint. But here, it's complete. Well, it's not completely. But
It's A-okay.
But it's pretty fucking all right. Yeah. I mean, it's utterly sad.
Yeah.
It's silly. It really is.
Anything to wrap up, Greg?
Well, I think you've pretty much wrapped it up. There's still reefer madness out there. I mean, in the 1970s, when they started NORML, they were pointing to this 1944 LaGuardia report, or first started talking about it in the late 60s when more and more young people were smoking marijuana, and it was brought up to Nixon. And there was another study, and it had pretty much the same conclusions. But it's always been a symbol of resistance or encroachment upon the government's authority to be able to smoke marijuana. And people taking it into their own hands to do so has created a lot of friction over the years. But I think more and more people have experienced marijuana and, again, are learning about it in the medical sense, in the industrial sense as far as hemp goes. So I'm optimistic. I hope we don't ever get a pendulum swing back. That's why I think it's important not to forget things like the 1944 LaGuardia report and again, point out the true facts to people and counter them, just like Fiorella did in that YouTube video, with the truth as you perceive it and based upon the science that you've read.
Absolutely. Greg, as always, fantastic. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're going to take our last break of the night.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Whether you are a commercial grower or cultivate as a hobby, No Dough Urban Garden Supply is Denver's first stop for your hydroponic grow needs. With a wide range of products including House and Garden, Botanicare, and Fox Farm, their knowledgeable staff can get you started on your first garden or help you with your well-established business. No Dough Urban Garden Supply is located in downtown Denver at 1330 27th Street, 4 blocks north of Coors Field near MMD of Colorado. They are open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 303-296-3424 or visit them on the web at www.nodoughurbangardensupply.com.
High up in the Rockies is beautiful Frisco, Colorado. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is a medical marijuana center with compassion for Colorado's medical patients. Looking for great meds grown organically in soil? You've come to the right place. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is just off I-70 at exit 203. Check them out at the web at www.mmrockies.com. Their ever-changing strain and clone selection is updated on the website daily. When making a trip to the mountains, no matter the season, stop by Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. Make sure you say you heard about them on iCannabis Radio. You can call 970-668-MEDS to get more information. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, your mountain source for meds.
The National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
Welcome back. So, our show we could always talk about Mr. LaGuardia.
Yeah, that was, we may have to adopt some of that, or maybe all of that as a soundbite, and just come in at the end and be all, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio.
I don't know. Do you think that our producers have the technology?
We could probably download it on the phone. There's an app for that.
I can do it on my iPhone. I don't have a Samsung Galaxy Note. I just don't.
Yeah, Sam.
Sung. See what I did there?
That was pretty.
That was good. So can I just change the topic just a little bit?
Holy shit! It's 7:50.
It is.
How the hell does that keep happening every week?
Every
look
week
down
the
and
minutes
the
tick
fucking
by.
show is over. It's like, really?
It's fun, isn't it?
I'm sorry. I think I swear so little on this show.
I thought it went till 8.
In comparison.
Yeah.
It does,
so
and it's
10
7:50. Yeah, we got 10 minutes. I mean, the show just started. I swear to God, it just started. Your clip came in and made it way too fast because it was like, oh, I want to hear more. And then you said more, and it was like, oh, this is totally
If you can
fulfilling.
I'm going to try to find one other thing in the LaGuardia report because I think it's important, but I just couldn't locate it.
So one of the things that I think is funny about those old clips is it feels like they all talk in that same stilted pattern, that somehow the communication directors of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s all said that you talk like this. And
Well, it was before they were conditioned to be on TV. Because before that, they just had to talk to be heard or, just blah. They're just stern people, so they have to be seen as stern. Now you have to be seen on TV, so you're going to be seen by everybody in the whole world.
Right.
You have to be a completely different person.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. It's so, you can pinpoint the time by just listening to how they talk. And you're right. I mean, it probably is because the conditioning for something like radio is so vastly different than being on camera.
Especially when it's
not for us.
This
though.
radio, it's total free for all, and you can say things like "fuck," and it's okay because here we're still free. So
Think a veteran.
yes.
Greg, did you find what you were looking for or not
No.
yet? Okay. So I just wanted to I haven't talked about the Boston Marathon in a while. So I just think it's kind of time to do that.
Okay.
Today, as you guys know from my having said it 100 times, so the way that you get to run in the Boston Marathon is by having a qualifying time. And people that run the Boston Marathon, the qualifying times are really, really competitive. And so you run a specific race that has been delineated, a Boston qualifying race, and you submit that time. And to register, if you run X number of minutes faster than the qualifying time for your age group, you get to register first. Then they shorten the time, and so the last people that get to register are the people that got their qualifying time, so they didn't get 10 minutes faster, what have you. And then just like New York, which you don't have to have a qualifying time, but just like New York, you can also run with a charity group. But this year they're doing something different, and they just announced it today, that if you were profoundly personally affected by the events of April 15th of 2013, the bombing at the Boston Marathon, you can submit a separate application to run the Boston Marathon. So those folks who, I consider myself personally and profoundly affected, but not because I was there, not because I lost a loved one, but because to me, Americana is wrapped up in the Boston Marathon, a race that's been run for more than 100 years. But just want to put that out there, a plug for those folks that could possibly be able to get into the Boston Marathon this year, not because they made a qualifying time, but because their heart and soul was and lives were changed by the events of that day. I, for one, am not going to put in an application for that because I think there are people who really had a very personal connection to that day. But the next round will be when charities open for slots for people who did not qualify into the race. They will open a few limited slots to people who just raise enough money for a specific charity to be able to get in. So be watching for that. I'm hoping that there are some slots available because I will want to apply there and raise money probably for a cancer charity because, of course, the connection of cannabis and cancer research, cancer treatments is so strong. So just to put that out there. So keep your fingers crossed for me because I want to run it. It'll be on April 21st this year. And so, it's right after a really busy day, April 20th.
Got to eat your Wheaties the day before and then eat your Wheaties on the actual day of the race.
Right. Actually, Wheaties make me poop. I'm not going to eat those before running 26.2 miles. Mm-hmm. There's a whole thing called the runner's trots.
Right.
You got to be really careful.
I've learned about all kinds of this stuff, starting to talk to some of these runners, and it's like, wow, oh yeah.
Yeah, running as a physical activity actually stimulates your bowels and colon. Thank you. And so you have to be really thoughtful about what you eat because running as an activity stimulates it. Therefore, if you combine that with a fibrous food or something that upsets your stomach, look out.
So if you drink coffee before you go on a 5K, you're probably going to shit around 3K. It's going to be 4K all the way to the toilet after that.
So I have this funny story that I'll tell really quick because my friend Seth's probably not listening. But we were training for his first...
Name dropped.
We were training for his first half, and I think we were doing like a 8 or a 9 mile run, and it was a Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, and he got the trots, and he was like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And he was contemplating pooping in an alley. And I'm like, you can't do that. So guess what's open on Sunday mornings? Churches. So he literally ran into a church, and I ran around the block a few times, and he came out feeling much better.
Wow.
Seth.
So, all right. I saw a comment in here I wanted to jump on really quick, something about it's going to be on TV everywhere, and it got me thinking, as Colorado will be the first state in the union to have legal weed stores, at least in our lifetime, available as soon as January 1st, it makes me wonder how many new TV shows, how many movies will end up, whatever will end up coming here, because you can't go into a dispensary. I mean, you can, but you're not supposed to. But now a regular weed
21-year-old.
Yeah. So you can go in and film and do all the whatever you want. You can film your videos and your bling bling and all your dumb commercials for your medical. I still can't believe that people did that, but that's a whole different show, to talk about. But I just wanted to bring that up about the TV. It's one of the unintended consequences, or one of the unintended side effects of Colorado being Colorado and Washington. But given that Washington doesn't have their stores in place yet.
We have a listener from Washington State. It'll be interesting when both of our states have retail stores open. It'll be really interesting.
Right? Especially I don't know. I mean, I know that they're the police, the border police, the Colorado State Patrol that are dealing with the highways and everything, gotta be. It used to be if you're leaving Colorado with Colorado license plate, you were a target. Come January 1st, anybody, they could just pull anybody over and be like, well, we're just going to start doing random
sniff tests,
searches.
Yep.
Where you coming from?
Right? Maybe they even do, like, when I was living down in El Paso back in the 90s for a couple of months doing a job, when I drove back home, it's amazing what you can learn when you do it the total wrong way. You do it the right way, you don't learn, you don't know anything. But you do it the wrong way, you learn all kinds of neat things. I had a big fat bag of delicious nugs. Back then it was just big bag of Chronic. No, Kind Bud.
He didn't. He had a big bag of swag.
No, because I got it in El Paso. They're like, no, we don't care about weed down here. It's all about Coke. And it's like, well, I care about weed, so I'll take that big old bag. Here's $20, and I had a little metal pipe. I left the pipe on the dashboard when I was going through the border patrol from El Paso, where Texas and New Mexico meet, and didn't even realize it was sitting right there. And he's like, sir, I'm going to need you to go ahead and pull over to the side. And he's like, oh, fuck, why? What did I do? And I looked on the dash, and I was like, I know what I did. I was dumb. And so I
did dumb.
I did total dumb. So I'm wondering if they're going to start setting those up here. That would be totally stupid and a huge violation of well, I don't know.
No,
Does it violate anything anymore? I mean, Americans don't care. There's cameras on every corner. There's TSA at the airport.
Probably a pipe in Kansas is some sort of probable cause. You smell something, you see a dirty pipe, and
oh yeah,
all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, if they just randomly pull you over,
still
they'll get you. So
probable
watch out.
Cause. I mean, you got to watch out with that. Have it. Oh, it's just a pipe here. Well, it's got some weed in it that's halfway burned. How long ago did you smoke this? When did you last smoke? Are you under the influence right now? That's going to increase. So
absolutely.
Everybody keep that in mind.
And that'll increase here.
Have, some kind of burned pipe or something like that in the vicinity of your car. You you shouldn't be smoking at all, but still, you got to protect yourself.
That's right.
Well, you do. Speaking of TSA, I've flown with weed before, and they don't seem to care.
Well, especially if you're going from one medical state to another.
Well, I was leaving Texas, Austin.
Not a medical state.
Not a medical state, and I had a couple of containers of oil. I had my vape pen, had my scale that was covered, my work scale. So I'm a hash maker, so I'll just leave it at that. It wasn't supposed to be in the bag. It just didn't mean for it to, especially going to fucking Texas.
Right.
And right on top was my new shirt that has Colorado license plate and it says legalized it, 113 or whatever. And right on top. So when I got back to Colorado, there was a note from the TSA on top that said, "Hey, we were in your bag." I was like, sweet. I had this total feeling it was going to be in there. It was right on top. My legalized it shirt was right on top. Everything was still there.
And they put some Hershey's Kisses in there for you?
They should have.
Should have.
For going through my stuff. But, I've seen people go through carrying on with jars of weed, with rigs. Don't bring a torch. Don't be stupid. But
don't be stupid in general. There's no reason to set yourself up.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say, hey, go to the airport and bring jars of weed with you. I'm just throwing out there past experiences throughout 2013 between me or other people, and just sharing them.
That's right.
Use the knowledge wisely or don't use it at all. But we're just sharing experiences here.
Don't do something because
we said.
Because we did it.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what's going on the rest of the week on iCannabis Radio?
I would love to.
You would?
I do, because I can't remember shit anyway, so I need to be reminded.
So on Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the Adam Dunn Show. Adam Dunn from Hood Lab and Hemp Lab. And I can't talk tonight.
No.
Hemp Hoodlum.
Yep.
Does a show from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and he talks about things like seeds and grow lights and hemp products and all those kinds of things. Thursday, speaking of hemp, the Hemp Connoisseur. David's show is from 4 to 5 p.m. These are all Mountain Standard Times. On Friday, Reefer Madness with Citizen J and Mark from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Back to Monday afternoon in the lab with Jennifer Murray from Can Labs from 3 to 4 p.m. Check out today's show, by the way. I got to be on the show. We talked with the folks from Grow Life as well as Alan Brockstein from 420 Stock Advisory Group. Check them out. We talked about publicly traded companies and what's happening in ancillary cannabis industry companies. And then, of course, Jeremy and I are on again next Monday night from 7 to 8 p.m. And we had a blast and hope you all enjoyed the show.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. I'm sure that we went over 3 minutes. Yay.
Yay.
So thank you for listening for the extra 3 minutes tonight.
Thank you for being here.
When is Thanksgiving? I'm sorry.
A week from Thursday.
So it's not this week?
No.
Okay. I don't know why I don't know that, but
it's the
fourth Thursday.
Fourth Thursday of November.
Okay.
It also is when Hanukkah starts.
Gotcha.
So,
all right. So, well, happy Monday to you, or if it's not Monday, you're listening on YouTube, happy whatever day today is. Happy day to you, and we will see you next week.
Bye.